are you listening more than you're talking? Because everyone thinks they know what's going on. They think they have the answer, but it's like, if you would just listen to someone and then have a conversation, I think so much more good could be had.
If you're hearing that kind of stuff at that young age, how do you grow up to be a accomplished member of society?
People want to try and box you, but it's like, and try and say your worth is this or that or the other. No, your worth is supreme, it is divine, it is godly, and you deserve everything.
You grew up, like you said, in pretty suburban area.
Yep.
You played hockey.
Yep.
You can swim,
Yeah.
which, yes.
I was the only black kid in the deep end during our swimming lessons. All the other black kids were in the shallow end.
And you didn't talk black, you didn't get in trouble, so like, when did you, how long, I guess, did you deal with this idea? Because for me, I can identify with that, but I am half black.
Right.
So like, it's easy for me to, I guess, understand why I have questions with my identity.
Sure.
When you tell me that, I'm like, you're black. Like, who cares what you do or whatever? Like, clearly you're black.
Right.
Like, there shouldn't be, but there is real identity issues. So
Yes.
like, how long did it take you maybe to figure out that you're not just the color of your skin and to really find your identity and that it's okay to be black and play hockey?
I feel like the first time I confronted it was super at a young age, but by the time that I got a handle on it, I would for sure say like 9th, 10th grade. And again, I think that's why I was so angry growing up and why I hated people was because it's like, you are stupid, but yet you think you're better than me and you think you deserve this more than me. No, I will prove, I will fight, and I will show you I am better than you. And that was the whole thing of like realizing that at the end of the day, me destroying other people and bringing them down a level didn't make me necessarily feel better.
Yeah.
Maybe in the moment, but like longevity, it didn't help anything.
Which is why you always came back and apologized afterward once you thought about it.
Exactly.
But in the moment you react.
Because I've been there. I've been at the lower position where someone puts you down or makes you feel bad, and it's like, doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And you don't want to do that to somebody else.
Right.
So you're a black kid playing hockey. One of the stories you told at that St. Paul service, and we've talked about before, that still absolutely blows my mind, is the story about when you were playing hockey at one of your rival schools and the student section was chanting the N-word at you.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, so rivalries, students get rowdy, like, they got like the chop, like the, but I'm on the blue line, whatever, and like getting ready to drop the puck, and all of a sudden I hear, N-word, N-word, and it's like the actual word. And I remember I was like, what is that? And I like went like this, and I was like, no way, like, wow, they're actually saying this. And I was like, well, that's fine. They'll keep saying it and someone will stop them. Well, no one stopped him. No one stopped him. The puck dropped and he zoned back into the game to keep going. The part that hurt the most was that like there weren't administrators or parents that stopped him. I mean, maybe my teammates didn't hear, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you just feel alone. And it's like, yeah, I am the only black guy here. I'm the only one on the ice.
And honestly, you probably might have been the only black person in the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like on both teams, coaches,
so it's like,
fans.
And it's like, you just kind of feel alone, and it's like, yeah, been here before, whatever. And again, like, I'll show you that, not that I'm superior, but at least that like I'm equal.
Yeah.
Like, used to it, just used to it.
And that's what I think a lot of in this 2020 talk about, Breonna Taylor up to George Floyd, any of this stuff is, and the riots and the stuff that comes afterward is that black people and minorities in general, but specifically black people a lot of people have just kind of adopted that attitude. Like, yeah, we know you don't think much about us and we're just gonna I'm just gonna do my own thing. I'm not even gonna worry about it. And then when stuff like that happens, it builds on each other and you can only like hold that in for so long. And that's why, in my opinion, you see the outburst, the rage, the burning buildings down, the looting. I mean, I know some of the riots and looting are just people taking advantage of stuff, right? Like
looking for an
situation. So let's go steal some. You see the guy with the Lego set at Target, like a giant like Lego set. I was like, come on. Like, and the lady had all those lamps or whatever. Some of it's just opportunity, but a lot of that frustration that's been boiling over because I would imagine if you, growing up in, you were in a nicer part of Brooklyn Park, but it was still, Brooklyn Park's a fairly diverse community.
Yep, super diverse.
You know, and you had good parents, a good household that you grew up in, a good church that you went to. And if you were dealing with that stuff internally, can you imagine people growing up in way worse situations and what they've had to deal with, and then they see another black man shot in the streets, or in this case kneeled on but killed in the streets? How do you expect them to react?
And that's my thing. It's like, I can only speak to a suburban black person's experience. I will never speak for the inner city because I didn't grow up in the inner city. But like, when I saw George Floyd, I did see myself, because it was like, the police don't know who he is. And so like, I can talk, I can posture myself, I can do all these things to not be the stereotype. But at the end of the day, when someone sees me, what's the first thing they see? My skin color. So they're gonna assume all these things, and then next thing you know, you can have a knee on your neck, and then you're murdered, and then, oh well, what'd he do? And it's like, you guys, I don't care if he was on drugs. I don't care what he did. There's nothing there that warranted his death. And especially as Christians, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Like, where is the mercy? Where is the love? Where's the justification? Because honestly, it's the ultimate fear of like, let's say something like that happened to me. What do the people that I've spent the majority of my life, are they gonna be like, well, did he deserve it? Like, what was he doing? Or are they gonna fight for me? Like, that's like a low-key fear of like, what would happen to me?
Well, and honestly, like, the fact that the past your record, like, you got a perfect record, right? But well, from what I know, I don't know, I was your youth leader for a while, so maybe you don't tell me some things.
I think I got a couple speeding tickets.
But I like to assume that you're still a pretty good kid.
Couple speeding tickets, that's it.
But you could have a great record, and like you said, the first thing anyone sees is your skin color. So they might make assumptions or not, whatever. They don't know at the time. It might be before it's too late, before we can then jump to defend you on Twitter and say, no, I knew Thomas, he was a good guy. He was not. But that, like, there's that extra pressure of being, and I'll say a minority, I only know what it's like to be black, but that pressure of, you gotta be perfect. 100%. And I get, like, I take that challenge on, like, personally. I'm like, I'm not gonna be a stereotype. And if I have to completely obey every law to make sure that this doesn't happen to me, I'm gonna do it. But I also had a great home life, so it was easier for me, like, situation. But what really actually, and I'm just thinking about this now, but when Savon died, one of the things that I had people asking me, like, what happened, like, people that knew him well, people that didn't, you know, friends, family that were concerned for, like, wondering how I'm doing, but like wondering what happened. And I, first of all, at first didn't really know. But I wanted to make it clear, like, it wasn't a drug overdose. He wasn't shot in a drive-by shooting. He wasn't, like, because that was important to me, because he was black, and to die young when you're black, like, I don't know what was going through people's heads.
No, but
people that, especially those that didn't know him, I would, if you've ever met Savon, you knew how great he was. So, like, I probably don't have to say anything, but I wanted to make it clear, because that's a lot of pressure on a young black man to be perfect.
No, it is, because the minute you do anything, it's like, oh, of course. Well, I mean, it's not right, it's crazy, but it just is.
So you talked about being, like, feeling alone and not having support. I think that's another part of 2020 is, and I think there has been a lot of white people that have been like, I want to help, I want to support, what can I do? What would you want? What do you want to see from people to show support, to show that they cared in situations, whether it's directly related to George Floyd or, you know, in any encounters, any racial encounters you've had in your life? What do you want to see or hear from white people?
That was, I think, one of the biggest things I learned in this was like, there's the whole line, well, I don't see color. And I used to kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then what I learned just in my own experience is that my friends aren't racist. They did not treat me different, but they did not recognize the struggles that I had gone through because of my color. So it's like, you want to see color, not because you're gonna treat them differently, but you're gonna recognize other people might treat them differently. And so going forward, one, like if you see someone being racist, say something, confront. Because I just don't think there's many black people who've seen someone step up for them that wasn't black.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. Two, hey, is there anything that I can be aware of? Is there anything that I've said, or like just being more aware, having that conversation? And then three, using your voice just in general. I think that's the other thing. It's like this. I don't think, in my opinion, this isn't just a black person problem.
Yeah.
This is a humanity problem as humans. So when there's a group of humans who are being marginalized about something that they can't control, well, maybe I should advocate. Maybe I should say something. Maybe I should. I'm not saying you have to protest. I'm not saying you have to go on rants on Facebook. I'm just saying, what is your influence, and use it for the betterment and equality of people.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Because I feel like I have a lot of friends like, well, I just don't know what I should do, or I feel pressure to do this. Take a step back. Who are the people in your life that are black that you do care about?
Yeah.
What would you want to do for them?
Yeah.
Just start with the people you do know.
It's one of the things I loved about what Jamie did that first Sunday.
Right.
With providing opportunity for you guys to speak, was it wasn't like, oh no, we gotta talk about race. Where's the nearest black person?
Right.
It was like, no, I look directly to my side, and here are two black men who I grew up with, who I'm close with, who I'm still close with, who are in high leadership at our church and part of our church family, and they're gonna share.
Right.
And I think you saw that first Sunday after George Floyd died, was a lot of, quite frankly, I mean, black churches too, but white churches scrambling, like, what do I do? Like, a lot of them may be finding, where's the nearest black guy? Like, how can we do this? Or they try to do it themselves and they stumble over their words, and they might end up saying something that makes it worse. I think that proximity to pain, I think is a big thing that people, like, if you don't, and that's one thing that actually Ryan and Angela, when I had them on the podcast talking with them about, Angela was like, I'll never know what it's like, but I want to get as close to it as I possibly can to help them lift that burden.
Right. Because I mean, even with the conversations I can hear right now, well, I did talk to someone and they said they've never experienced racism, that blah, blah, blah. And it's like, cool, awesome. You talk to one person.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody else. Like, just because I'm saying this doesn't mean I speak for all black people.
Yeah.
That whole narrative of like, well, yeah, I have an uncle, all right, but stop.
Or you heard Candace Owens. Or
Yeah. Candace, like.
It might be her experience.
Exactly.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
But everybody's experience is different.
Right.
Black, white, male, female, doesn't matter. All of our experiences are different, and all of our stories are valid.
Thank you.
Your feelings are valid. Like you said, you may not know what it's like to grow up as a black man in the inner city.
I don't know.
So if you want to know, go talk to a black guy in the inner city. But all you can do is share your experience, and all I can do is listen to your experience.
Right.
And I'm not gonna try to argue with your story and say, well, no, you shouldn't feel that way. No, because that's your experience. That's how you experienced.
Right.
I use the example of, I had an older brother, and so growing up, he would like punch me, and I would say it hurts, and he'd say, oh, it didn't hurt that bad. Like, you don't know. I'm hurt. Like, I don't care how hard you think you hit me. I'm hurt right now.
Right.
Like, your intentions doesn't matter. But I think that's hard. Part of what's hard to have these conversations is because if I'm talking to somebody who's not comfortable and they say something, either they don't say anything because they don't want to say something wrong, or they say something that ends up sounding wrong, then it's how do I react to that, right? If somebody says, all black people look alike, somebody confuses you and Ryan, how do you react to that? Do you say, oh, you're racist because you think me and Ryan look alike? Right. Or do you say, hey, that's actually really offensive. Like, saying all black people look alike isn't a joke. It's not funny. It's not like, there's a problem with that. And then having that conversation, because then they have to then not get defensive, because that happens too, where they're like, well, I'm not racist. It's like, well, I didn't say you were racist.
Right.
But what you said there, and maybe it's because they don't know you guys that well, so, maybe it's because there aren't, as many black people on staff, so I don't know. But to actually have that conversation, I think, is a hard thing for people to do. And that's very important to do right now, is to have these conversations.
Yeah. The whole, black people look alike is a funny one. Because, I don't know, I think just, again, as people in humanity, if you can't see someone for who they are, but you just see them for their skin color, I'm not saying, I guess that's the question, what does that say?
Yeah.
If you can't see someone for who they are, but you just see them for the color of their skin, that's all I'll say.
And I would even say, race, obviously, it makes this a bigger factor, but I would say even just, and I guess I can't speak for everybody, but as Christians who are called to love people,
Amen.
We need to look people in the eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to have a photographic memory, but I'm saying part of the reason why you think people look alike because you just have general features or know general things, and skin colors can be an easy one, because if you are significantly darker than a white person, but if you actually got to know people, when you shake, we can't shake their hands right now, but if we can shake hands again, or just when you meet someone and you wave or elbow bump or whatever it is, look them in the eyes and know their name and remember their name, and just love people and get to know people on a deeper level, really see the person and not just the color of their skin, or if they're tall or skinny or curly hair, actually see the person.
Right. I think that's the other point of that. With people, there has to be patience, there has to be mercy. And so I think a lot of people don't lean into conversations because they're afraid of being called racist to that point.
Yeah.
They're afraid of being called prejudiced. But just acknowledge, I'm on a journey, I'm growing, I want to understand, help me understand.
Yeah.
I think both sides, all people need to do that.
Yeah.
There needs to be mercy and patience extended to every side, because how can you expect someone to know and understand you if you don't give them the time to?
Yeah.
I can't pretend like I know what it's like to be a white person, a white female. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm married to one, but doesn't mean I know what it's like. I can be like, oh, a stereotype, this, that, or the other. But again,
spice latte.
Right. But it's a stereotype.
Yeah.
And I don't like being stereotyped.
Yeah.
So why would I be perpetuating the same thing that I'm against?
Have you had more of these conversations with your wife in the last, I guess, since George Floyd died, in the last not even full year? I found me and Jocelyn have had more conversations this last year about that than we've had in the 9-10 years we've been together before we got married, and then way more than she ever had growing up, because she blew my mind. They've never had those. They just didn't have those conversations because her family's white. They're not racist by any stretch of the imagination, but they don't have to have those conversations. She mentioned to me not long after George Floyd died, we were talking about this, that she never had any black Barbies growing up.
Yep.
And it just kind of blew my mind. It's not that that's a big deal, but we had black Barbies and G.I. Joes and white Barbies and G.I. Joes.
I had a black G.I. Joe. For sure. Yeah.
Have you had some of these conversations with Brianna about what it's like for her and her thoughts and feelings right now? Not to put her on the spot too right now, but. For sure.
No, yeah, so my wife grew up in St. Michael, Albertville. It's kind of a smaller town or whatever. Yeah. And so she talked about how learning about our history of America and racism, it was kind of like a topic because they don't have very many black people even in their school.
Yeah.
And so racism is kind of like, oh, this is the kind of thing that happened in the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's over now. And so growing up into the world, it's like, oh wait, to hear your story, Thomas, it's like, really? What?
But a lot of people are taught that.
Yeah, and again, that's the whole thing about conversations is, what is your experience? I mean, going on to my world, right? 2007, Xbox Live. You talk to anyone in this era, 2007 to 2012, the Xbox Live era, the N-word was the go-to. Someone loses a game, they're upset that you killed them. Oh yeah, N-word, yeah, dumb N-word, the dumb monk, all the things, and would just unleash on you.
Yeah.
This was last year, probably before George Floyd. No, after George Floyd, the guy was like, yeah, I hope you're black, you dumb N-word. I hope you are. And I was just like, this is online.
You told me this blows my mind.
This is online in 2020.
Yeah.
I hope you're black. I hope you hear me. It's like,
because they can hide behind, But how is that even there? Like, I don't get how people can hate. I don't.
So again, yeah, proximity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know what else to say to that, because it blows my mind that people would still use the N-word, especially in that capacity.
Oh yeah.
It's one thing if rappers want to use it, or if black people want to say it to each other, that's a completely different conversation. But I can't imagine that people would use it with hate intentionally.
Online. I don't even know if you are black. I hope you are.
Yeah. It's just blows my mind.
Yeah.
All right, I think, is there anything else that you want to say? We'll probably wrap it up because I think we've been on long enough, but is there anything else that you want to say to me, to anyone that might watch this, to drive a point home, something you want us to take away, or something that maybe we didn't cover yet?
Yeah, if this conversation/topic is tiring, understand this is people's everyday life experience. To my point where I just referenced something that happened to me again earlier this year. It's tiring, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so how you feel is how some of us has felt our whole life.
Yeah.
And no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not a victim, because I don't let that stuff, I don't let those words define who I am. I don't let it warp my life. I continue going on, but just to be aware. That's what I'm saying. Just be aware and just have conversations like we said. And when you do see something, speak up, say something. But don't let this conversation be like, oh, they're talking about racism again. This thing is an old thing. No, this is an everyday, ongoing thing for so many people in America.
I'm gonna let you go, but it just made me think of two things. One, if you're tired of hearing about it, think of how tired people are that are living it. You gotta be real tired that live it. Forget hearing about it is bad enough, but to live it every single day. Yeah. But then also you talked about the victim mentality, and I think that's a big thing, because even being in fourth grade, you being told, right? Fourth grade, being told that you're worth less than a park bench.
Right.
That, it's easy, you can see why people would have the victim mentality.
Yeah.
But I would, so one, understand that okay, you could see that people, they've been told this their whole life. So if they do come up with the victim mentality, then it's deeper than just somebody wanting handouts or wanting you to come rescue, a white savior to come rescue you or whatever.
No, 100%.
But then also, what I would say to, and you're saying it too, and I would say to any of my black family members or friends or anybody, is just because somebody puts that victim on you doesn't mean you have to live that. Doesn't mean 100%. You have to live down to their expectations.
Not at all.
And I was taught to not let the color of my skin hold me back. There might be people that might hate you or might think less of you or try to hold you back by the color of your skin. But I'm not gonna let one person's hate hold me back. I'm not gonna let them determine who I'm going to be, whether that's a stereotype or whether it's, not accomplishing all the things that God has created me to accomplish.
Exactly.
So thank you for having this conversation, for taking the time. I always enjoy catching up with you, Thomas, 100%. Whether it's in the hallways, having these conversations. Thank you so much for taking the time.